Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Logical Nonsense Podcast. Today we have a loaded agenda. Coming up, UDub. Can they compete in the Peg 10? Vrabel, Rivera, Arthur Smith, gone. Who deserve to be fired? Is Stafford going to haunt the Lions? Are the Ravens going to break their playoff curse? Can Lamar prove why he's the MVP? Did we write off the Bills too early? And finally, a huge announcement about our upcoming episode 50 on the Logical Nonsense Podcast. Boys, we are here. Dodge Matthews, Kaden Walsh, and of course, your host, Hunter Schuler. How are we doing today?
Doing good, Hunter. Thanks for having us.
We're doing good. Feeling great.
Kaden's feeling extra good. I mean, those Cowboys are in the playoffs. The other two of us are, sad because someone decided to bench Russell Wilson. But, moving on. So we'll start with the college football championship game. You know how we do it here. We rate these games. Let's rate the college football championship game, starting with Kaden.
No, as Cougs, I think it was sweet for us that UW lost. But overall, we'll probably rate it Mediterranean Sea. Washington, they got down early. They got back into it. And then when they had opportunities, they struggled. They couldn't get the run game going. Penix was shaken a lot. He got rib injury, it looked like, that he was trying to go through. Didn't throw it as well as he could have. And Michigan's defense, they really stepped up. Their run game was phenomenal. McCarthy played pretty well and just never felt like they were going to really lose that game overall. So I'll go Mediterranean for this one.
Yeah, I'll go Mediterranean as well. Pretty much Kaden hit the nail on the head. Michigan was the better team. Penix looked like he did when he was in the Big Ten earlier in his career. And, UW just, I don't think, had a very good offensive game plan. I think they kind of went in thinking we can play it like we did with Texas. And they obviously couldn't. Michigan, dominant on the ground, very well played. And that's classic Big Ten football. That's classic Michigan football. So, and we'll see where Harbaugh goes after this. If he stays, that Michigan team can be good for a long time.
Yeah, if Harbaugh stays, right? That's the big question. But I agree with you guys. I think I'm going to go Mediterranean Sea here as well. I thought it was interesting seeing this Michigan team, how well-rounded they were. Defensively, they were solid all game. Like you said, they caused a lot of issues for the Washington offense, which has been so strong all year long. And on the other side of the ball, they just ran the ball down UW's throat. I mean, Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards both had really great games. Donovan Edwards broke out 2 huge runs, which was huge. And then I want to say Blake Corum had 2 touchdowns of his own. I could be wrong on that, but you just can't allow that as a defense. When you let a team run all over you, it's really damaging because then you're scrambling to stop it when you can't stop it. So,
and honestly, the game was closer in the first half than this, or like not as close in the first half as the score showed.
Yeah, I agree.
It shouldn't have been 17-10 with them getting the ball. 34-13 was more how the game felt, maybe 27-13. But
yeah, Michigan was definitely in control like the whole game. And it wasn't like I really wasn't worried about UW coming back as a WSU fan. So, Kate, anything else on rating this game?
No, but one thing I want to add is Penix really missed a lot of throws that he had. That 4th down pass where he missed Odunze wide open on the right side for a touchdown. And then that throw coming out to start the second half that he just lofted that got intercepted. And so it really felt like they could have had a chance, but they just gave away any opportunity. And to beat Michigan, you can't do that at all.
Is he a first rounder?
Penix or Odunze?
Penix.
What are we talking about? I mean, he's definitely going to go in the first round.
He's shown he's injury prone, though. That's the big difference. and kind of a
I
glass
believe
cannon.
it. 2 ACLs, dislocated both shoulders, and he might have a broken rib after that game too, to your point, Kaden. So, yeah, I agree. He might slide because of it.
Yeah, we'll see. Dodge, what were you going to say before that, though?
Oh, I was going to say one thing that kept upsetting me in the game for UDub's, from UDub's perspective, was they weren't throwing the ball to Odunze. Odunze is by far their best player. Don't get me wrong, McMillan's a talented receiver, but Odunze is their top guy, and he got targeted less. And he needed to be fed the ball. He needed to throw more jump balls to him. You needed to fit the ball into him, give him chances. And Penix wasn't really doing that. I think that's because their game plan of Texas was just kind of to spread the ball and, let Penix make all these reads, not pre-snap, but post-snap. And they kind of used that in the Michigan game, but that did not work. And Penix should have just kind of saw, oh, I got Odunze one-on-one. I'm going to take that, and we're going to see what goes, especially when they got down.
Mm-hmm. I agree fully. So, all right, let's move to, is the Big Ten a little too big for UW?
No, I definitely think there's going to have to be some adjustments made for any of the teams that are going to the Big Ten. This game proved it. The defenses are a lot more stout. They're a lot bigger than in the Pac-12, more physical. It's going to be able to kind of air raid and win the conference. You're going to have to be able to get stops every game, win low-scoring battles. So I think it'll be a big change. Obviously, they'll still get to play each other a little bit, but I think it'll take a couple of years for them to adapt, to get the recruiting down, to get bigger bodies. I think it'll be a couple years adjustment from, but eventually the schools are big enough where they can adjust, obviously. But until they get there, it might be kind of tough for the next couple of years.
I think the biggest problem is that we have two conferences now that are too top heavy, and
are you referring to Big Ten, SEC?
Yeah. I believe they take up all 12 spots in the top 12 this season. I'm not 100% on. Oh, besides Florida State. Every other school will be in the Big Ten or SEC next year. And only 2 of those 12 can win their championship games. So that means that there's another like 10 or so that could in another conference, but won't in their own conference. Speaking about the Pac-12 teams moving to the Big Ten, it's going to be a change. They're going to play in colder weather. They're going to have to get used to a ground and pound Wisconsin, Michigan, Iowa style football. Mm-hmm. And they're going to lose random games to Northwestern and Purdue and Illinois that just weren't going their way. UW, I think, might be a little bit ahead of the curve compared to the other Pac-12 teams because they've kind of had this style in the past with decent O-linemen and kind of a ground and pound style. Now, in recent years with Penix, they've opened up to a more air raid type offense. But I think they can get back to it. They have a good coach in DeBoer. He's been great everywhere he's gone. So I actually think UW will be solid. Maybe not competing for Big Ten championships, but they will be a decent team in the Big Ten. Yeah. And for the rest of the teams, I think Oregon, obviously with recruiting, will be able to keep up. USC with recruiting will be able to keep up. But they're going to have to have larger style changes to accommodate. And UCLA, I think, is going to have the toughest time. They don't have the recruiting base, and their style needs to change significantly. Yeah,
I think going back to UW first, I think it's going to be a while until we see UW going back into the playoff, in my opinion. I think this is one of the better teams we've seen from UW. Obviously, they made it. I think, did they make the first one They made one. I know they played Alabama, right? What year was that?
It's 2014 or 2016. I can't
Yeah.
remember.
Okay. So I
But they
knew
weren't
they
ready
played
for it
one
either.
other, and I think it's arguable which team was better. You can make an argument for either or, but I think it's going to be a while until we see a team like that again. And even when they do get those teams, I think they're going to have more competition than they did right now. Obviously, the Pac-12 was like solid this year. I'm not saying like that it was bad, but it's just like you said, it's a different style of football that they're going to have to adjust to. And I also think UDub, they just lost a ton of seniors that are going to go to the draft. And I mean, Penix is gone, Adunze is gone, and
Nick
some other
Malone will go
guys.
to the draft. Yeah.
Yeah. So I just think it's going to be a while until we see them on that playoff scene again. Obviously, and that's even with a 12-team playoff. I'm saying that. So I think it might be longer than some people may think. But because I know Kirk Herbstreit, he said what? They'll be back.
Well, yeah,
I don't know
he
about
said
next year.
that, I think he even said that he'll be back. They'll be back to this game, which made me think like the championship. And
Yeah,
I think that is going to be, if UW
stretch.
ever makes it back, it's going to be a while. I do believe in DeBoer, very
Getting
solid
them back to
coach.
the playoff.
Yeah, I do. So I actually think they could make it in year 2 or year 3. Like not next year, but the following or the year
Yeah,
after, because it is expanding to 12. But it is going to be tough because there's just so many Big Ten teams that are going to be consistently fighting up there. The Pac-12 was good this season. They were, I think, the third best conference behind the Big Ten and SEC, but I think they were ahead of the Big 12, and I think the ACC was the worst conference this season. So
Yeah. And then the other thing with that too, like you said, I think USC and Oregon will continue to have good recruiting classes, and I think like they'll eventually be there with UW. But I do agree with you. I think UCLA we could see in a similar realm to the Illinois, Northwesterns, Purdue's, maybe some years Rutgers, some years Maryland. Kind of
you
field.
can add Nebraska in there for right now.
Ooh.
But Matt Rule's going to take us back, baby. You see Nebraska got the number 1 recruit?
I did see that, actually. I did see that. So
go Huskers, baby.
Let's go to nice little coaching carousel game. Vrabel, Rivera, Arthur Smith, who deserve to be fired. We'll start off with a hot topic earlier today. Me and Dougie got into it. Little Mike Vrabel action. Does he deserve to be fired? And we'll start with the neutral, the one I haven't heard yet, Kaden Walsh. Does Mike Vrabel deserve to be fired?
This one for me was kind of tough and a little unexpected. I can see why they did it because Derrick Henry's leaving. That's pretty clear. And they haven't been at that level that they once were a couple years back. Everyone thought when Vrabel started that they were going to be able to kind of explode and be a playoff team every year. They digressed, so I understand it. But for me personally, it wasn't something I really expected, and I thought they were going to give him more time.
Well said. I'll go first this time, Dodge. I'll go first this time. So, piggybacking on that, last week, I think it was either last week or the week previous, I talked about like Mike Vrabel hasn't been impressing me, and mostly because he's had some coaching lapses in games. The biggest one for me was the Texans game where he was leading at half and he let the Texans creep up when they shouldn't have. Like they had no right being in that game. They creep up and they win in overtime, which was just I don't know, that just can't happen. And I think I even brought up in the chat like he's had 9 first half leads blown, which again, some of that's team atmosphere, some of that's coaching. Blame it on who you will. But at the end of the day, he was coaching those teams. You could also blame it on the offense. The offense has not looked good the last 2 years. They made it to playoffs 2 years in a row. They were able to get it done with Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry, to what he was those 2 years, is like night and day difference. Just he hasn't had the same production as he used to. Teams have really stacked the box and have been able to not shut him down completely, but definitely make him manageable. And it feels like the passing game is irrelevant with the Titans. There were certain games this year where it looked okay, but it was nothing prolific. And they've had the same offensive coordinator for the last 3 years. So personally, I think Vrabel was on the downturn. I think it is a little early. I think maybe you try with a different OC before you fire Vrabel. But I don't completely disagree with the move, but I definitely don't completely agree with the move. Because I don't know. He wasn't doing the greatest job, but I think you give him one more year.
Yeah, so I sort of disagree in the fact that like Vrabel's a winning coach, and you can't overlook that because you don't know who you're going to get, right? It is possible Vrabel is one of the top free agent coaches out there now.
Yeah.
And you just got rid of him. So you're not going to rehire him. I agree with the OC thing, right? Like the offense has not looked good for the past 2 years. The defenses are stacking the box against your best running back, which is why the offense looks like crap.
Yeah.
So a change in OC would might have been like my route, and I would have told Vrabel, you need to change the OC. I don't care who it is, but you need to figure it out. And of course, if he'd said no, well, then that's a different conversation where we get to, okay, well, then you need to go too, right? But, I look at the fact that Vrabel had, during his time as the Titans coach, he had the 12th best record in the NFL. 3 playoff trips in 6 years. And I think he's 2-3 in playoff games, which isn't great, but it's almost even. And he had Blaine Gabbert, Malik Willis, and Josh Dobbs start a total of 21 games. And Gabbert's not good. Malik Willis, he played terrible when he started, and Dobbs is not good either. So my point is like, there'll be free agent quarterbacks, and there are quarterbacks up for grabs in this market that are good. You could go get one. You could go get an OC. You could see what happens next year and the year after. I would have given Vrabel 2 years, but that's my own opinion.
Yeah, I guess the only counterpoint I have to that is like, look at what Mike Tomlin's doing with the Steelers. Very similar, like defensive-minded coach. He's been able to get it done with Kenny Pickett, Mason Rudolph, and Mitch Trubisky.
This is 100% true, but Tomlin is one of the greatest coaches.
Yeah. No, I get that. I get I'm comparing apples and oranges, but to a front office's view, like they look at that and they're like, oh, well, Tomlin was able to get it done.
It's just annoying to me because I like we've talked about before. I think that we're firing coaches too fast nowadays. And Vrabel, as much as the team wasn't good this year, they were competitive with a rookie quarterback starting most of the games. I would let it ride another year at least. So
okay, going to Ron Rivera. Dodge, you'll start.
Oh my gosh, I just talked a lot. I'll keep this one shorter and sweeter. Ron Rivera, what was the record? 4-13 this season? Was that it? Or was it 5?
Yeah, their team sold, to be fair. But yes.
Yeah, no, they did. And I think they would have been better had they not, obviously. But they still underperformed. And I actually like Ron Rivera as a coach, but I can see why they moved on. It was a little bit – the roster is a little bit better than a 4-13 team, even when they sold. So it's a little more understandable. I think I would have continued with Ron Rivera for one more year, personally, because Howell ended the season pretty poorly as well. And you still have Bieniemy. Like, I don't know. Maybe Bieniemy is becoming the head coach there. I don't know. But are you going to lose Bieniemy now? Maybe. Depends on who the head coach is, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I would have left it for one more year for Rivera. But I can understand more.
1 more years by Dodge Matthews. Kaden.
Oh, no. Vrabel's 2 years.
No, I think Rivera deservedly got let go here. They've been on the down. They made the playoffs a couple years ago when he was first or second season, and now they're just on the down. They have the talent, I think, to compete at least at wild card, compete for the wild card, but they got rid of all their defense. No one really seems bought in with him the last 2 years. And I think, I don't know, how many quarterbacks they went through the last 5 seasons? Like, it's been a lot. I think it's just time to go get someone and be committed to something. It just never felt like they really wanted to compete the last couple of years.
Yeah. I think it was deservedly so, but I also think this is kind of like the last washout, I guess. Like, first, the Commanders got rid of their owner, right? And this year they're like, oh, we need a fresh start. We're going to be fine now that he's gone. And they didn't do fine. So then they got rid of all their players. Well, not all of them, but a lot of them. And now it's like, okay, last thing, we got to get rid of our coach too. I just think they want a fresh start, like with this team, with their fan base. And I think this is kind of the last straw of it. Whether they keep with Bieniemy, like you said, we'll see. But I mean, I don't think he's a bad option. There's honestly some good coaches. I mean, we just talked about Mike Vrabel. Possible. Seems like kind of a Commander's move, maybe. I don't know. We'll see. But there's some other coaches out there that I think they could get. I think that would suit them. So we'll see. Coaching market's interesting though. You never know how they're gonna end up. So going to our last one, and hopefully, or did I for Rivera? Yes, I said I don't know about 1 more year. I think it was fine the way they had it for him. Arthur Smith, final one. I'll start with it. I mean, yeah, man. Anyone who starts Desmond Ridder, like, just stop, please. I know we said like they're canon coaches too early, but like, homie, it's so clear. It's so clear Taylor Heineke's a better quarterback. And that's like Taylor Heineke's like okay. Like he's average, like he's not like really good. Like he's not, you know what I'm saying? Like what I mean by average is like he's going to win you games. Like I'm not by average, I don't mean like he's like, oh, terrible. Like he's just average. Like he's middle of the pack quarterback. I'm not saying like I don't think he's top 15. So I think Desmond Ridder was not the choice. I didn't agree with it, and I also think he wasn't utilizing anyone on that offense really. I think that's a little overplayed though. I think certain people overrate some of those players they've drafted a little bit. Like Drake London, good, yes. Bijan Robinson, good, yes. But Tyler Algier is also really good too. People forgot about that. Like there's other players that they can utilize on that team. So I think that was a little overrated, but I do think Arthur Smith deserved to be fired.
I'll agree with you, Hunter. I don't think he should have been coaching very long at all this year. The fans halfway through the season came out and said, you need to give red zone touches to Bijan Robinson. He started the season off great, kind of fell off. He said, yeah, I hear you, but fuck you guys. Like, we're not going to listen to our fans. And they didn't really give him any touches. And then in that last game, don't let the Saints score that last touchdown. He gets mad, gets in the Saints coach's face. Like, don't let him score 48 on you then. I'm sorry. Then I think the Falcons could have won that division easy this year if they used the right talent in the right spots.
Anyone.
And it was just kind of a whole complete coaching collapse from everyone in that organization, because they could have been a 9-8 team and won, or a 10-7 team and won that division, but they just lost those games because they didn't play right.
Dodge.
Yeah, I think he deserved to be fired. This is the one where I agree the most. The issue again is that they don't have a quarterback, although it seems like his indecisiveness is the largest issue I have with Arthur Smith, because Mariota was honestly playing fine last year.
Yeah.
And then out of nowhere, benches him.
Yeah.
And like, it didn't make sense. And then with this season, he started Ridder, which I thought was a fine idea at the start of the season. He played all right at the end of last year, and he's a young quarterback. Let's see what he can do. He starts Ridder at the start of the year, and Ridder plays poorly. And then people tell him, "Are you going to bench Ridder?" He says, "No." And then he proceeds to bench Ridder anyway. And then Heineke plays better than Ridder. And then he benches Heineke.
Yeah.
And then he goes back to Ridder.
And then he goes back to Heineke.
What?
Yeah.
And that's the indecision is the biggest problem with Arthur Smith. I think his red zone philosophy might be, like he said, to use his main stars as decoys to get other people the ball, to almost a misdirection type style red zone offense, which I can see it. That I can see why you come to that conclusion. But sometimes you do just have to give your best players the ball to score a touchdown.
Yes.
And so they could have won this division for sure. I think he could have done a lot better for himself if he was more decisive in his decision making. I think this team would have been better with Mariota starting even this year. So just the indecisiveness, is something that could be worked on. I could see Arthur Smith coaching again, but I think it's going to be a little bit before we see it.
Anybody know where Arthur Smith came from?
No.
Offensive coordinator at the Tennessee Titans with Mike Vrabel. All right, moving on to the Wildcard weekend games. I'm excited to transition into this. We've got a fun one to start out. I'm excited to watch this game. Who's going to catch a dub this weekend? Two underdogs, CJ Stroud or Mr. Joe Flacco?
Kaden, why don't you start?
What a fun matchup. Yep. What a fun matchup to start the playoffs. Joe Flacco, the old man, balling this year. CJ Stroud, offensive rookie of the year, potentially.
He's going.
Willed his team to the playoffs and the win over the Colts. Yeah. And, great defense, exciting offense. But as much as I've been riding the Texans this year, I want to see Flacco and the Browns make some noise in the playoffs. So I'm going to go with the old guy, Flacco dub, Browns going on.
Yeah, I completely agree. Flacco's still got the clutch gene. That has not left his body. And even though he's thrown a little too many picks for my liking, the defense of the Browns is good enough to make up for it. And the Browns are a sneaky team. Honestly, I don't know. Are we going to get to what we think the divisional round might go to this pod?
Yeah, we will. Yeah.
Okay. So, I might have the Browns get into the AFC Championship game. That's a definite possibility.
Okay.
I think the Texans have had a successful year, and I don't want to write the Texans off. They're not an easy win, but I think the Browns are a better team.
Completely agree. I think the Browns are the better team. I love what the Texans have done this year. They've willed this team to the playoffs. They have a great story getting there. I think their storyline, like everyone's honestly, I could be wrong. I feel a majority of people are rooting for both of these teams right now because they have cool storylines, right? Like they weren't really at the beginning of the year, no one was talking about these teams in the playoffs. And the Browns, I think, are a serious, scary team. Like that defense, what they can do is scary to me, especially when you can get to the quarterback, make him frustrated. CJ Stroud's a very composed guy. So I think I don't. This defense is a little much. I think the Browns are going to be a little too much for the Texans to handle, and I think the Browns are going to win this game.
I mean, Tank
And
Dell's up for the year, right?
yeah, and that's the other thing I was going to get to. Like without Tank Dell now, shut down Nico Collins, which the Colts somehow couldn't fucking figure out how to do. Like what the fuck?
That's true.
Like I seriously have never seen a secondary struggle so hard. And granted, the Colts secondary was like dwindled, but still, holy shit, guys, double team him. Like, oh my god, it was the only guy he was throwing to. Like,
no, you're completely right. The Colts could not stop Nico Collins. The Browns have so much better defense, especially defensive backs.
Yeah, Emerson.
I think it'll
and
be
Newsome. Yeah,
I think it'll be easier.
Yep, I agree.
Good game though here. I think it'll be a good game.
I do too. It'll be fun to watch. Going to our next one. An interesting question, and then you can make your picks too. But will Tyreek Hill haunt the Chiefs?
Yes, Tyreek Hill will haunt the Chiefs. I think the Dolphins.
Bold takes on the Logical Nonsense podcast.
The Dolphins come out and they win this game. We've been talking about the Dolphins are pretenders. It's time to talk about the Chiefs being pretenders because as much as we love Patrick Mahomes, we love Travis Kelce, and their defense has been good. Their defense has actually been the best thing about this team.
It is. It is the best thing, yeah.
No, I think it ends. I think Dolphins beat the Chiefs in upset. So I got two upsets right there, right in a row. The Browns, technically by seeding wise, right? The Browns and the Dolphins.
Oh, yeah. So they have the better record, but yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah. Kaden.
Okay. My thoughts on this game are it's going to be -5 degrees in Kansas City. It potentially windy and snowy. So not concerned about Tyreek really, but more Tua. Is Tua going to be able to play a solid game in those conditions with the Chiefs defense? And, in the big games this year, he's kind of fallen short. So, I think the Dolphins are the better team with the way the conditions are, the way the Chiefs know how to win. I think the Chiefs are going to will away out of this game because the Dolphins have only beat the Cowboys really in big games. And so I think the Chiefs are going to sneak this one by.
Yep.
He brings up a great point.
Here's the other thing too, like the Chiefs, we don't remember this, but there have been times, and I'm not like this is probably the worst, not the worst, but one of the worst teams we've seen Patrick Mahomes on. I said one, not the. Okay. Probably like his first couple years, maybe, but one of the worst teams we've seen Patrick Mahomes on. But the Chiefs, even when they're doubted, they always find a way. And I don't think at home they are going to lose to a team that has not really beat a ton of good teams other than the Cowboys. I think Kaden put it perfectly. I'm going to go with the Chiefs. I don't think Tyreek will turn into your friendly ghost and haunt the Chiefs.
I think the Dolphins have a better run game, though. That's the one thing that I think about, and I'm like, even though it's a snow game, I'm going to stick with the Dolphins. I think they're a better team, and I think their run game's better.
You don't think the Chiefs defense can shut down the Dolphins run game, though? If that's all they can do?
I'm not sure that the Chiefs can do anything on offense to outweigh anything the Dolphins will be able to do.
Okay.
I don't think they're that good. I just don't. Andy Reid is a good coach. They have a group of people that should be good other than their receiving core, which in a snow game doesn't matter. But I still think I'm gonna stick with the Dolphins. I don't love Tua though, but I'm gonna stick with the Dolphins.
I mean, have we, Kaden, before you started talking all that, did you look at the forecast for that game, or are you just pulling shit out of your ass?
No, he must have. He must
I
have looked
saw
at it.
someone, ESPN posted something that says
I'll,
supposed to
I'll
be
look up the
-5.
weather. I'll look up
So,
the weather report real quick so
okay,
we can
good. Yeah,
confirm.
because ESPN had a thing that said -5. So
So yeah, there's supposed to be 10
it's gonna be cold
degrees,
though.
or no, it's supposed to be 1 degrees on Kansas City. It's not supposed to be snowing, but it is supposed to be 1 degree. So, okay, Kaden did
Which
not pull
big
anything
difference
out of
from
that. Everyone can
75.
trust Kaden now. We're good. Just needed to fact check him for a sec. All right.
I agree too. We'll have problems in the cold against Chiefs team.
Absolutely. Yeah. Plus, I mean, like, the Dolphins are a Hard Knocks team. They don't win. Hard Knocks team don't win in the playoffs. Come on now. So let's move on to, did we write off that Bills team too early? I'll start. Yes, we did. Yes, we did. You know, deep down, I don't think I claimed this. So I'm not going to like claim that I said this like that. But I will say this. Deep down in my superstition, when everyone's like, oh, this Bills team isn't it? They're probably not going to make playoffs. Deep down, I don't like that. That doesn't seem right. Like the Bills, they're just one of those teams that you just can't write off, you know? You don't feel good about writing off. Even when they don't seem like they're in it, like they're going to be bad. They just have too many good guys on their roster to be bad. So yes, probably me included. I don't remember every single take I've ever made. We did write the Bills off too early. And in a matter of fact, the Bills will be in the Super Bowl this year.
Whoa. This is going to be crazy because I agree with you. I wrote them off way too early. I didn't even have them making playoffs, right? And then they rattled 5 wins in a row. Crazy. They beat the Steelers, lose to the Browns.
Ooh.
So that's the crazy thing for me. I think they overmatched the Steelers just in talent, and they're at home. They're just hotter on the street.
I also just don't think the Steelers are good.
I mean, the Steelers aren't good, but Mason Rudolph's been playing better than at least Trubisky or Pickett is able to. And, you know, they have Mike Tomlin. They have a decent run game, okay defense. Without TJ Watt, I'm really worried about that defense.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm really worried because TJ Watt provides so much for them.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the Bills do win that first game, but I think in the divisional round, because I have the Dolphins winning as the 6th seed, the 6th seed would then play the Ravens. The Browns would play at the Bills. And that's why I have the Browns going to the AFC Championship.
Yep.
Beating the Bills.
Okay.
No. Yep. I agree with you guys, too. I think most people did write the Bills off too early. I might have been the only one that had them in the playoffs, though, in our playoff predictions. They got hot at the right time. They made the coaching change on offense that they needed, changed their play style up, and they really benefited. They've played good against good teams. Josh Allen still does have a turnover problem. Last week, they could have lost that game to the Dolphins, but Tua just played worse. It was just an ugly, intense game. So this Bills team, to me, they could go out. They could beat the Steelers in a close game somehow, a game they should win by a lot. And they could go out in the next week and just destroy the Chiefs. And then in my prediction, I have them losing in the championship, the AFC championship. But I think they're solid enough where they could play a team like the Steelers close and then blow out a good team. They're inconsistent, but I still think we did write them off a little bit too early.
Okay, let's go to Dak and the boys to the ship. Okay, let's start with you.
Packers in the playoffs gives me nightmares, and I don't care that they don't have Aaron Rodgers anymore. Seeing this matchup deep down gives me a PTSD. And, the Cowboys could go out this game and they could win by 35, or Jordan Love could make them Packers look amazing, and it could be a 3-point game. I think the Cowboys will win this game. We got to be confident, but I also think it might be a little close. We're at home. We're undefeated at home this year. So I think that's really going to help us out these playoffs, and we're gonna make it to the NFC Championship. This year, we finally get past the first 2 rounds.
Okay. Thoughts?
So it depends what we're talking about on the ship, right? Are we talking about the NFC Championship or are we talking about the Super Bowl?
I
Right?
did just say the ship, so
You did.
interpret as you will.
They're not getting to the Super Bowl. I'll say that. Sorry, Kaden.
No.
The NFC Championship, it depends on that Rams-Lions game, dang it. I think if it's the Rams, I think then they play the Eagles because I have the Eagles beating Bucks. Then I think yes. If the Lions play at the I'm still going to say yes. The boys are getting to the NFC Championship game, but no further. Dak has played well this season. Honestly deserves MVP consideration much more than Lamar Jackson. I know we already said Lamar's won the MVP. He doesn't deserve it. Christian McCaffrey is probably the one who deserves it the most. And Dak has been the best quarterback that's played every game this year. He just has. Lamar Jackson has not. So
Yeah, people did not like my Lamar Jackson take, which we'll get to in a sec, but they did not like me saying that Lamar Jackson did not deserve MVP. And I mean, did not. They came with the hate.
Doesn't.
I mean, they did not like it, but we'll see. Dak and the boys, man. You know, I definitely think I think they'll beat the Packers, but I think it's going to be closer than a lot of people think. They're 7.5 point favorite, and I don't think they're going to win by 7.5. Or, well, obviously they can't win by 7.5. I don't think they're going to win by more than 7 points. I think you could see a field goal game here, like a field goal score winning game. It just seems like one of those games. But I also think they could just. I don't know. I think they'll have close games. I think they'll get to NFC Championship possibly with how the Eagles are playing. We'll see who they end up playing in the divisional round, but I'll go with the boys.
To be clear, I have the boys over the Packers by a good amount. I don't think it's going to be that close.
Can the Stafford haunt the Lions? Can Matt Stafford? I'm going to go with it. I'll start. I think Matt Stafford's going to get done. I think Sean McVay is going to sit his happy ass on the sidelines, be smiling, throwing up some great plays to Puka Nacua. Ooh, Kyron Williams, let me hand the ball off to you. Oh, Cooper Kupp, let me give you the ball to you. Get his guys jazzed up. I think he's going to win. I think the Lions got a lot of hype on them. They got a lot of they think they're the big dogs now, and I think it's going to get to their head. I think the Lions are going to lose like Lions do.
Get bounced out.
Upset. I think that's one of my only upsets, yeah. Yeah.
So far, I think, yeah. This is probably the best game to watch for me this playoffs at least during this round, because I'm so torn. Yes, the Stafford Rams can haunt the Lions. 100% they can. Will they?
We'll see.
Oh, it's just so tough because the Lions, they got a good team. And Goff can play well. Goff can win them that game, right?
It depends on which teams show up, right? I mean, we've seen the Lions really just show up and look shitty certain weeks.
Yeah, we have.
And same goes for the Rams. When the Rams look good, man, when they're clicking, they look pretty damn good. So I think it depends on which teams show up.
I'm gonna go with the Rams in an overtime game. In an overtime
James, game. You hear that? 2 Rams.
It's so close. I think honestly the Rams are a little more talented and they're hotter coming into the playoffs than the Lions, and I think that's why I'm going to go with them in an overtime win, is because even though the Lions have been consistently better throughout the year, the Rams are peaking at the right time, and it's
Rams 4 in a row going into the playoffs. Or no, wrong side of the schedule. Or no, that is right. 4 in a row going into the playoffs.
I hate to kind of rain on the Rams parade here, but I think the Lions have to get it done this year. I think it'll be close. I think it'll be exciting. But if this is the year the Lions win a playoff game, it has to be now. They get the toughest matchup in the first round, though. But we need to see the Lions, the early season Lions need to show out. And I think they can. This Goff has to show out against his former team too. Goff has to put up a 4-touchdown performance in this game. But I think it'll be close, but I think the Lions will finally get it.
My question for you is, why do the Lions have to win this season? Because they didn't even make the playoffs last year.
I'm just saying they haven't made the playoffs and won a playoff game since 1991. So who knows when they can get back in? That's my kind of take on it. Like they made the playoffs. They won their division for the first time in a while. They got to win this year. They'll probably be, they'll have a good chance to win the division the next couple of years. But Lion fans are restless, and they want this. And I just think it's time for them to get a dub in the playoffs.
All right, everyone expecting Matty Stafford dub.
Will Dan Campbell screw this up in the end of the game?
He'll go for it. You know he will.
I know he will. Will that screw him up? I don't know.
We'll find out. Screwed up Brandon Staley. Going to Monday. I don't know how we haven't made this joke yet. Baker preheating that oven, baby. Let's roll, freaking Bucks. Baker making brownies. Eagles dub.
I don't get the joke. What happened?
His name's Baker. He bakes.
This man cooks, he bakes. That's good. I didn't think about that. Oh, shit.
Baker Mayfield can get an upset.
Absolutely. With the way the Eagles have been playing the last couple weeks, I don't know. They lost the locker room. A.J. Brown's faking injuries. I mean, I think the Bucks can win this game if their offense is clicking. They're getting it out to Mike Evans. But I also think the Eagles, they're still a talented team, even though they've been faltering the last, couple weeks. I think if they get it going early, they can ride off that. It's when they get behind in games that they struggle. I want the Bucks to win, but, now I'm talking about it. I do think the Eagles are going to pull it out, but I think it's going to be a low-scoring, ugly game, something like 14-10 kind of vibes. But I think the Bucks have a definite chance, way better chance I would have given them, a couple weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
So I will go with the Eagles here.
The only issue I have with the Bucks is that the Bucks offense has been struggling the last few weeks. They're not hot anymore. Baker's played well this season, and he deserves to be re-signed by the Bucks. And they have a good roster. They should continue making playoffs. They honestly underperformed a little bit, honestly, when it came to the record. But I think the Eagles leaders on that roster will come and get that team's head straight because it's time. It's playoffs. There's no more of this BSing around. We started out 10-1. Now we're going to go 1-4 or whatever it was.
Is what it was.
Yeah. I think the Eagles win an ugly one. But honestly, they kind of need an ugly win, don't you think?
Yeah.
Sometimes you got to win an ugly game to be like, yeah, that's right. So I think they get an ugly win, but I do think the Eagles are stopped in the following round by the Cowboys.
Yeah. This is one of those ones where, if the Bucks were to upset the Eagles, I wouldn't necessarily be like, holy shit, that just happened. It's like one of those things where it's like it's doable, and I wouldn't say it's probable, but it's definitely doable, and I could see it happening. But like you guys just pointed out, I definitely think the Eagles can still win this game, and I definitely think they should win this game. They have the better team at the end of the day. They haven't been playing like it, but every year there's teams that kind of fall off towards the end of the year, and then they get to playoffs, and it's like they pull their head out of their ass, and I could totally see the Eagles being that way. So I'll go with the Eagles as well.
Honestly, let's look at their roster. I would say they're pretty comparable. I think they're both very talented teams, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
It's just that I think the Bucks have so underperformed their record.
Yeah.
And I think the Eagles.
This will be.
I just think the Eagles are slightly better.
Who's played better this year? Doug, who's played better this year? Jalen Hurts or Baker Mayfield?
Oh, Baker has played better this season.
Bold takes on the logical.
That shouldn't even be a bold take. Like,
people will think that.
The last few games, I haven't. To be honest, the last game was very poor for the Bucks offense. They won, thankfully, but a few games ago, I would have said Baker well over Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts, he has 13 rushing touchdowns or something like that last time I checked, which is good. But half of them are tush pushes. Although he's the only one that can do them, I can understand it. Just too many turnovers. I think he's at 17 last time I looked, and that was previous.
Do you want me to tell you?
How many total turnovers? Yeah, how many total turnovers?
So we have 6 fumbles and 15 interceptions.
21. Oh my gosh.
He has 23 passing touchdowns, 3,858 passing yards. Then he has 605 rushing yards and 15 rushing touchdowns. So that's what? Wow, I'm bad at math. 38 total touchdowns and 21 total turnovers.
It's a problem.
And around 4,400 total yards.
Baker's been a good quarterback this season. Let's not talk about Baker being even just average. Baker's been good.
28 passing touchdowns, 10 interceptions, 4,044 passing yards.
I think Baker is uplifted by his receiving core, which is so solid, so good. But Jalen Hurts is as well. Jalen Hurts has A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith. Let's not discount that. He adds something on the ground that Baker can't, just physically.
Yeah.
But when I look at how many turnovers Jalen Hurts has had this season, it's too many for the touchdowns not being that much more than Baker. You see where I'm going with that?
Yeah.
And honestly, I think they probably have comparable total yards.
He has total yards. Jalen Hurts has 400 more yards.
Including Baker's running?
Yeah. Or 300. Baker only has 150 yards on the ground.
Oh, wow. That's a little less than I expected from Baker. But still, Baker's been the better quarterback this season than Jalen Hurts.
Jalen Hurts also has 9 total touchdowns more, but he also has 11 more total touchdowns.
He has more than double. He has more than double the turnovers.
Let me look at the fumbles. So he has 3 fumbles. So that's 13 total turnovers. Still 7. Or
are those fumbles lost, by the way, or those?
It just says fumbles.
Yeah. On ESPN, they give the loss, but it's. My point is that Jalen Hurts has turned over the ball too much this season. I would choose Baker over Jalen Hurts. Sorry. I don't want to keep rattling on this. I'll do my end of season look at everything. I haven't fully done it yet. But
fumbles lost. I see what you're saying. Like if they actually fumbled the ball like to the other team.
Like if they fumble and recover it, it doesn't hurt the team, right?
Got it. So Jalen Hurts has 6 total fumbles, 4 4 lost, and Baker has 3 fumbles, 0 lost.
Yeah.
So that lowers it to 18 total turnovers for Jalen and still 10 for
10.
Baker.
Okay.
Okay,
Sorry, I
who
don't
do you
want to
think's
belabor
better, Baker or Jalen?
No. This season, Baker's been playing better overall. Jalen started the season off really hot, but the last 6-7 weeks it's been a struggle. Last year, when Dak Prescott had 23 touchdowns, 15 interceptions, everyone was calling for him as one of the worst quarterbacks in the league. Jalen has the same stat line pass-wise. Just want to point that out, and haven't heard too much about it yet, but whatever, you guys can keep hating. But I just think
I will
Jalen's
say
on the team. Yeah.
Sorry, I wanted to talk about. I personally never thought Dak was one of the worst. I always thought Dak was. Honestly, thought after last season Dak was mid. Now after this season, it's going to be a higher projection going into next year. But Hurts, if we're being honest, has been buoyed by a good team for a while as well, which I think people have, like you've talked about, are not taking into account versus other people when they get buoyed by a good team. Like everybody's like, oh, well, Brock Purdy is on a good team.
Yeah.
Hurts never gets the same love.
Is it true?
Or like he gets the same, he gets more love. He never gets the same hate.
Yeah, true. Fair points. Fair points. All right. Let's move on to my final. Well, actually, this will move us to the divisional round, which I believe I have your guys' picks in. So, Dodge, we'll start with you. You have the Dolphins playing the Ravens. Can the Ravens break the playoff curse? Can they beat the Dolphins?
Yes, they can beat the Dolphins. They proved it just a few weeks ago. They're a dominant team. Lamar is efficient this season. As much as I just ragged on him for not being the best quarterback, he is efficient, so I'll give him that. And he's a dynamic player. He's a good quarterback. Let's not get that wrong. Earlier in the podcast, I had him ranked as a quarterback who can win a Super Bowl, right? I had him ranked, I think, 9th. He's played a little better than 9th this season. But yeah, the Ravens, I think, are getting to the Super Bowl this year. So
Okay.
they'll be back.
Kaden, the Ravens on your side will be playing the Browns, I believe.
Okay. So the way I have this going in, I think the Browns give the Ravens probably their toughest test in the AFC out of all the teams. But I also just think the Ravens are the most complete team in the AFC this year. They're 13-4. Their defense is good enough to keep them in a game that could turn ugly if Lamar is struggling. And I just think they are the most complete team. And I do think that they can find a way to win or to get to the Super Bowl. They'll be at home every game, which is a huge advantage. You don't have to go to Buffalo or Kansas City. And I think this year, just the road's open for them to get there.
I think their curse is going to continue. I think they will play the Browns, and I think they're going to lose. I just talked about how the Browns are a very good defensive team. I've praised them all year long. We have seen in years past, there is a team that usually makes some sort of run. For example, a few years ago, we had the Bengals. Now we don't see it that way. The Bengals were not even close to expect to be in the Super Bowl. And I think the Browns could be that sort of team. I really do. People don't believe in them. I think they do. I think Kevin Stefanski, great coach. I think the defense is great. And I think the Browns, didn't the Browns beat the Ravens already this year? It's a divisional rival.
I don't know. You want me to look that up?
Okay, they beat the Ravens this year. I could see them doing it again. Week
even haven't
10, they
played.
beat them 33-31.
I agree with you. The Browns are going to make a run. I just have them going up against a different team.
Oh yeah, you do. So I'm gonna go with the Browns again. I think the Browns are gonna be that sneaky team. So I'm gonna go with another Lamar loss. And
so who are your AFC title games then? I have Browns Ravens.
we're gonna get to the next divisional game.
Okay.
The next game for Dodge would be the Browns versus the Bills.
I think this is where we see Flacco magic and Josh Allen turnovers. And I think that's honestly where we see, I've talked about this before, that it's possible the Bills are handicapped at the very top because Josh Allen turns over the ball too much.
Okay.
So this Browns D is really good. I mean, if Josh Allen's just throwing 2 turnovers against the Dolphins, it could be 4 against the Browns.
True.
So I have the Bills going into Buffalo, or I have the Browns going into Buffalo and taking that. And then we got a Joe Flacco Ravens matchup in the AFC Championship game.
Yeah. Oh, and that's another thing. Flacco gonna get his revenge on his old team. Are you kidding me? Fuck that. That was his replacement. Fuck that. Yeah, give me Flacco in the rate. Give me Flacco in the Browns. You kidding me? Hell no. No. Browns. You heard it here first on the Logical Nonsense podcast, folks. Watch them lose first round now. Kaden, you have the Bills versus the. Wow, I'm getting confused now. Bills versus Chiefs.
Yep. And for me, it's in Buffalo. I don't think Kansas City deserves to beat the Bills the way they acted the first time they played this year.
Ooh.
So I don't know. The Bills will get revenge from the playoffs a couple of years ago. They'll keep their hot streak going. I think they have a close game versus Pittsburgh round 1 that's going to scare them, and then they're going to come out. They're going to execute against the Chiefs, and they're going to win this game, and they're going to go to the AFC Championship.
Okay. I am also going with the Bills. I have the same matchup as you. We had the same AFC picks. So I'm going to go with the Bills as well. I think the Bills have been playing better lately. I think Josh Allen and this offense, how they figured out kind of their offensive scheme, I think they'll figure it out again. It helps that it will be in Buffalo. And I think the Bills are going to make it to the AFC Championship and finally avenge all their losses against the Chiefs in the playoffs. So I will go with the Bills again, and I actually hope that there is a offsides on the Bills and they still win the game. So we'll go to our NFC divisional matchups before going to our AFC NFC champ. Well, no, we'll stay with the AFC Championship game first. AFC Championship game, Dodge, you have the Browns versus the Ravens. Just like I did, except for a different round.
Yeah, and I have the Ravens winning this one.
Boo, 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 boo.
Joe Flacco does not get his revenge, and he probably throws too many turnovers. Ravens go to the Super Bowl.
For mine, I have Ravens Bills, and I just think this Ravens defense is too solid. They're fast, they're physical. Josh Allen's going to be goaded into some turnovers, and then they're going to just do enough to get it done. They've shown that they can beat good teams with their games against the Dolphins and the 49ers. And even if the Bills are hot, I still think they're just not as complete as this Ravens team. And for me, I think the Ravens win this by a touchdown, and I have them go into the Super Bowl.
Okay. Yeah, so I have the Bills versus the Browns, and I think this is where the Browns story tale ends, and the Bills make it into the playoffs. And yeah, I think the Bills finally make it to the playoffs. I think this is the best year for the Super Bowl. Sorry, the Bills finally make it to the Super Bowl. I mean, if you look at where the AFC is, if the Browns can beat the Ravens, this will be the best time for the Bills to make the Super Bowl because Pat Mahomes and the Chiefs are down. Joe Burrow and the Bengals aren't even in the playoffs. And like I said, if Lamar Jackson gets beat before he can get to the championship game, there's a very good possibility the Bills can make the championship Super Bowl. That's why I have the Bills in the Super Bowl. So there is a world, might seem a little, on a guide, but that's what's fun about this, right? So going to the NFC divisional, Dodge for you, I believe we've got, oh wow, I got to think about this real hard.
Rams, Niners, and Eagles, Cowboys.
Thank you.
And these are divisional rivals, playing each other for a third time. Part of the reason I don't like the 7-team format, if I'm being honest. We see more of them, I feel like. But I think we get Rams, boys, both easily dispatch their divisional rivals. Then we get Rams, boys, an NFC championship game. Oh, Rams, boys. My bad. Niners, boys. Sorry.
I was about to say. Ooh.
Sorry. I did not say. Take
Hot
that out. The Rams are not making the NFC. My bad. The Niners, boys, NFC championship. My mind was thinking about the Rams, but the Niners are going to dispatch the Rams.
Okay. Kaden, we've got for you, I believe, you had the Lions winning, correct?
Yeah, correct.
So we've got Niners versus the Eagles and the Rams, the Lions versus Cowboys. There we go.
There we go. Okay. I'll start Niners, Eagles, and a game that should be a blowout. I think it's going to be close, and I think the Eagles are going to find a way to keep it close, but ultimately the Niners are the better team, and they'll win by probably 10, but I think the Eagles will give them a little scare. They'll be counted out early. They might get to Brock Purdy a little early on, force a turnover or two, but by the end of the day, just the more complete team they'll figure it out against a struggling Eagles team that might not have Devontae for the playoffs. I know he went out with an injury in the Giants game. Mm-hmm. So we will see, but I think it'll be close. And as for Cowboys, Lions, probably one of the best games in the second round. Lions going back to Dallas. They're going to throw a pass to their tackle on the first play of the game to make a statement. And then I just think the Cowboys at home, there's the better team. I think they could have won that first game a lot more. The defense kind of crumbled at the end, but I'll take the Cowboys again, setting up Niners Cowboys for my divisional.
All right. I like it. And for me, I've got Niners, Rams, and Cowboys, Eagles. I'm going to go with the Niners. I think that's a pretty easy win for them. And then as far as Cowboys, Eagles, I'm going to go with the boys as well. I think they're just the better team this year. And even though they struggled the first matchup, I think it'll be more like that second matchup. So I'll go with the boys again. And that leads us to our championship games. I'll go first. I think the Niners will beat the Cowboys in the championship game. Similar reign to how they did last year.
So you're going with your Niners Bills Super Bowl like you predicted from the very beginning.
I am. Isn't that crazy, Doug? How'd you know that I had that? Almost crazy. And it's crazy how I totally laid out a path for both of them, right?
I know.
Like they're easy paths.
But yeah, you did that. So. I got the Niners winning, beating the them boys. Niners just have a better team. They're more stacked. McCarthy has a tendency to choke when it comes to like large games like that. And I think we get a repeat of an earlier Super Bowl when it was Niners Ravens. So that's my Super Bowl pick.
Blackout in the Super Bowl Part 2. Colin Kaepernick will be kneeling in the middle of the end zone. What? Okay, Kaden.
Okay. I've brought this up a couple times because I think it's a funny little statistic, but the colors of the Super Bowl matchup have been the two teams that have played in it the last 6 years or something crazy, and it's purple and red in the logo this year. And on paper, the Niners are the better team, but damn it, this is the 4th time in a row, and we're gonna beat them this time. The Cowboys are gonna win a slugfest against the Niners. It's going to be close. I can't watch us lose 3 years in a row in the playoffs. I can't go for it. I'm going to give my boys their trip back to the Super Bowl since 95. First one. I need this.
This is our year.
It's our year.
It's our year. By the way, I want everyone to know that's one of the only times I've heard Kaden say that, and mean it.
All right. Going to our Super Bowl matchups. Doug, you've got Ravens.
Oh, yeah.
What?
Sorry, are we going to give Super Bowl picks or no?
Yeah, Ravens.
Oh, okay.
Versus. That's what I just said. I said going to our Super Bowl picks.
I thought we might leave that,
No. We're not.
Okay.
Because, next week our playoff brackets could be totally broken up. So
They could be.
But they're not going to be because I'm always right. So Ravens, Niners.
Ravens, Niners.
That's who you've got, right?
Yeah, that's what I got.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
The curse remains with the Ravens. They can't get it done. The Niners are Super Bowl champs. As much as I hate the Niners, they've been the best team this season. They've only added more talent throughout the season. It's their time, and that's unfortunate. But, yeah, Niners win.
Okay. Kaden?
So the boys, they get to the Super Bowl, and then they play a team with a good defense, and they're just not quite there yet. And they break my heart again, and I have to watch as the Ravens win the Super Bowl. I got to live a whole offseason with my team second place. I just think this Ravens team they're just too complete. And the Ravens
you really have your team making the Super Bowl, and you're not picking them.
Yep. Because I know my team, Dodge. I know my team, Dodge. I've known my team for the last 23 years. They won't win that game.
Caden's on the Harbaugh pack. Going to go back-to-back ships in college and NFL, rule the world. All right. And then for me, I've got Bills, Niners. Like I said since the beginning, quote it, stamp it. I got the receipts. And I've even got a bet in DraftKings, so suck my dick. But I think the Niners are going to win it. And I think DeMar Hamlin will somehow get Super Bowl MVP still.
All right, place that bet in DraftKings. That's gonna be plus 50,000 or something. There ain't no way.
The last part was a joke, but
okay. When we talk about most improved player, I think once Flacco gets the AFC Championship, Flacco will become or no, it's not most improved.
Decided before though, yeah. Yeah, I think it's decided before. It's not. It's about the regular season. It's not about playoffs.
I know. Dang it. Never mind then.
Big announcement about episode 50. For those of you, I'm very excited to announce that we will be doing a live stream for episode 50, a 2-parter. These boys here will be on the first part. We're going to be doing our favorite sports moments post 2000 because we weren't alive pre 2000, so it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to have our favorite moments. So we're going to be making a top 50 list. We will be listing out a lot of them, but we will be talking about one per 10, and then we'll go over through our 10. I'll be showing you guys those sports moments if you haven't seen them before on the live stream. So be sure to tune in. It's going to be a super fun episode. Super, super excited. Super grateful to be at 50 episodes. It's crazy. I mean, it's been a lot of fun, boys. And for part 2, I will be doing a top 50 hip hop artists of the 2010s and on. That will also be a live stream. Super, super fun. Super excited. Grateful for everyone who listens. So thanks, boys, for coming on. It was a good one.
Thanks for having us, Hunter.
Thank you.
Loved it.
Excited for 50. Let's go.